Rebels made some definite advances here on the east edge of the map. Remember, that gun was abandoned, essentially. They managed to march in there, pin down these guys, and it's going to be tough for the Union now because they've got a flank attack coming in on this side. They can't do much. They're going to have to try to repulse these, and they don't have much left back here. Over here, well, the Confederates continue their slow withdrawal. It doesn't look like that Union attack as such is going to really gain any traction either. I was hoping the artillery would send Hebert's forces falling back. They're not. He's back up here. Now, he can't do much anymore. He can't move around. He's got a 1 hex movement radius until McIntosh gets back in range. But McIntosh is going to be able to start bringing his forces forward. And my hope is by the end of the night we'll have McCulloch's division reformed, essentially. This is the big question. I think the Union can take that pretty easily. So those guns will go away along with the crew back here. I got to get rid of, there's a Union crew kicking around somewhere back here. That doesn't matter anymore. Guns fell. Alright, onward. So we're moving into the 5:30 turn. This is the last daylight turn. Things get assessed after this. The Union moved over, grabbed that gun. No big deal there. I believe they can do that in movement because there's no forces there, which is why they're back in line. It doesn't make much difference. Resupplied their ammo. Moved Siegel up to here, but they turned Osterhaus around and started marching him up. I believe this is the more critical location. I think these forces can actually hold off McIntosh's command right now if they choose to fight from here rather than come in on the Van Dorn side. Now Astroth or Ashtoth or whatever, Asboth, and the supply wagon, the horses, those are all moving. I shifted those extra cav into place as well to try to shore things up here. Just in case there's a breakthrough, they could have flung themselves into Elkhorn Tavern. Now, the chance of a breakthrough is kind of weird. It's hard to tell what's going on here. This is so chaotic. These artillery, actually not this one, it's out of ammo now, I think. These artillery, well, these two, fired over here, drove away the units protecting it, killing one. Took Colonel Carr with it, killed him. That means that Dodge is now his replacement, and we've got a little replacement brigade commander. It's kind of funny with the Union commands because they're so tiny, and they each have their own divisional commander. I mean, some of these are one brigade with a divisional commander. It seems kind of goofy to me, but you end up being able to put the brigade commander advances to a divisional commander. You get a brigade subordinate there. It all follows very nicely. Compare that with two really big divisions for the Confederates and this painful process for replacement. It feels a little twisted to me. To me, I would say, hey, use the same kind of replacement, in particular, that a brigade commander can command the division as well. Put that same situation in play for the Union. Just because of ease, there's only like one replacement counter, two between the two games that I have punched already. Anyway, that's going to be a significant amount of points. I don't know how many, but probably about... see, there's the thing. Divisional commanders are worth something, which is why you want to kill them. But I don't know how many points we're talking here. Let's take a quick peek. Enemy divisional commander killed. That's 8 points. So that's a big swing in terms of the position. That may be enough to give the Confederates a chance to keep fighting. I doubt it. I think they need this. I mean, there's a lot of points that they don't have otherwise. There's 50, 60, 70 points that the Union gets as a bonus on them. And I don't think the Confederates have done more damage than the Union. And I don't think it's... I think it's probably... the total damage on each side is probably around 50 points, to tell you the truth. So the Union holding all the ground, I think, should win the game. But can't be sure. All right. Anyway, what happened here, they, like I said, they got driven off. But Vandiver, with the support of this Cav pistol unit here under Busey, Busey managed to fire. That didn't do anything. But then when Vandiver attacked, the Confederates decided to withdraw. Busey fired again, ended up routing them, and Vandiver marches in. This was really a situation where these are all out of ammo Union units charging into battle, and they're kind of stemming the flow here. It takes away the this would have been guaranteed, basically, taking those guns. Well, maybe not. They could shift or whatever, but it was pretty ugly. It's still pretty ugly. Those guns have a good chance of being just wrecked by the Confederate artillery here because they're exposed now. But I don't know. That whole situation. I don't know what the chances are of the Confederates making it down to the tavern. It looks pretty low. Certainly by nightfall. They got one more turn. I mean, if they moved straight through, let's assume that they couldn't form column, but they can only get to here. I just don't see it. So as nightfall begins to come, the Confederates kind of pulled back. However, Slack did slice through and went for a guts or glory type of attack onto that artillery battery. Vandiver's got all out of ammo units, so he couldn't do anything about it. It shot into him, didn't get a pin, didn't get a rout, didn't get anything really, and Slack was able to just march in, capture those guns. That's the last of Vandiver's batteries. Now, there's still some other Union artillery back here, but for the most part the artillery's been wiped out over here. I don't remember how much artillery is worth in this game. I know in TSS it was fairly valueless. But if there's anything that's going to help the Confederates, it's the capturing of these guns in terms of victory points. I don't expect a lot from the Union turn. Probably going to be a falling back. Got to worry about this here. That's going to take some opportunity fire coming out. But for the most part, I think the Union's going to try to form another line back here and force the Confederates to push forward just a little bit more. This bottleneck's getting pretty open. But right now my view is I only have to hold the tavern this turn. And after that, if I haven't won the battle, I might be willing to give it up. Just to tighten my perimeter, because it doesn't look to me like I can lose the 2 days, but I would like to win it in one if possible. I would like to. But also, being able to prevent the Confederates advancing this far, that's got to be demoralizing to them, right? Something like that. Well, the only real effect, Vandiver's brigade is knocked back from its position. Heavy artillery fire. That probably could have happened last impulse, actually, and opened up the possibility for the Confederates to fire some more. I don't think any combat's allowed, though, at night. I gotta look up the rules for that. There may be some provisions for units still engaged, kind of, to fight, but I think they kind of have to break apart in this. It's a little unrealistic. I like games that allow a little bit more night fighting, but it could just be the Confederates are so damn tired, and they're on the offensive here, that they'll pull back no matter what. They're pretty worn out by the time they make it to the battlefield, right? A day and a half without food, constant march through winter terrain, ice, sleep for 3 days, low ammo, everything. Wow. Over here we see the Union beginning to form a line to protect the cornfield area. Basically, make it ugly. If McIntosh goes charging this way, he's going to face fire at range, basically, as he comes out of the heavier woods. Similarly here along the cornfield, if there's going to be an attack from that direction. There's kind of a gap here. Of course, the Union gets to see that the Confederates are marching through the woods, if that's the case. How realistic is that? This is the kind of game where if you said, well, let's allow hidden movement in the woods, etc., you'd have to start accounting for all kind of pickets and stuff like that in there. Frankly, I think it's fine that you know that they're there. In some cases, there's enough distance where you wouldn't know the troops are there. Meanwhile, we're going to see how the Confederates come up. But I think it's probably over, and I'm going to count the points and come back after that. So I counted the points, and oops, not quite. I forgot BCE loss, which in this case the Union loses 30 more points for. And it's definitely more than 3-2. We got almost a 2-to-1 ratio here. The Union's got 217 points, the Confederates 112. Now, if we took out the terrain, 70, 120, 130, Confederates would be ahead. But consult the schedules. Hold on, the victory point. To determine the victory point, yeah, that's just to see the ratio. There doesn't seem to be anything along the lines of, well, you have to win it as a purely military victory. The Confederates caused more damage. They broke a couple of Union brigades here, which isn't unlikely. Some of these are very, very weak. We got Vandiver and Busey. But the terrain was just held, and that's what I was counting on. Confederate losses, well, the Confederates actually took out quite a few Union guns, as we can see. And to some extent, you could say some of the reason the Confederates failed here may have been my unwillingness to haul as many guns up as I could have. You're allowed 2 per hex in the light woods, I believe, 2 batteries. Yeah, I had this because I was going to write numbers down. And let's see. Yeah, you're allowed 2 batteries anywhere, really. And I generally only had 1 up front, and that caused a lot less damage. And there were, a chain of them that I could have pulled up. Largely, that's a matter of forgetfulness. I'm used to kind of 1 battery per hex being the standard, and it's not in this game. Would it have made the difference? I don't know. If Elkhorn Tavern fell, it would have. This would have continued. As it is, nah, not really. I don't know if that would have been significant enough to cause enough additional losses or whatever to break that line. But that's one thing I'm looking at, which is saying, yeah, maybe that's the effect it has. There's kind of an interesting dynamic to this game. Now, we didn't go into what happens at night, because at night the game kind of shifts to this situation where you regain some of your brigade combat effectiveness, etc., and you can regain some of your stragglers. But beyond that, let's take a look. These Union brigades are very fragile. So if you send one off to do a task, like we did with Busey, and as happened with Vandiver, it should have also perhaps, it was very close with Dodge. Dodge would have been a big swing in points. Likewise, Osterhaus, very close to brigade loss. Did I mark all the losses? I think so. That's one of the issues with the game. You also, because of the counter losses and everything, I had situations where maybe a counter got budged and the wrong side of a loss counter was in play, etc. That's just one of the factors with these games. You have the same thing in Great Battles of History, really, except they're not losses in the same way. It would have been nice to hit the second day, I think, but I'm okay ending it here. I think we learned something kind of interesting. One thing that I learned was, as soon as this resistance started forming up too much, I should have considered pushing over towards the Elkhorn Tavern to force the Union out of there. I think that was a big mistake, but it looked like I had a real shot at getting Leetown. And getting Leetown might have won the game. It might also, it certainly would have prolonged the game into the second day. Didn't happen. Union defenses held there. Union defenses held in the bottleneck there. And by the time I made the decision to try to transfer over, it was too late. But I feel like I didn't leave here. The point at which I left there was the turn after I could tell I can't take it. Everywhere before that, it felt like there was a good chance. You know, I had the whole thing kind of surrounded and thought I was going to crush it. And I really got out of there as quickly as I could after the failure was apparent. But yeah, just the nature of things. Got suckered in a little too long there, as it were. Likewise, you know, detaching McIntosh and swinging him straight down for Curtis's headquarters might have been an option. It would have been hard for the Union to spread defenses against both the Confederate forces in as much, with as solid a defense as they could put up against the whole front as a whole. But I thought diverting Pike would get me that flank attack or rear attacks that would be valuable, and it did force a retreat that otherwise maybe wouldn't have happened, from one defensive line to where I thought I could take all of Leetown. Anyway, didn't happen. That's life. Not a lot of reinforcements coming in on the second day if it happened. Some more batteries for the Confederates and another nice little brigade for the Union. I'm going to come back and actually do a very brief review. Yeah, we'll give this its own review video, I guess. It's hard to tell because, you know, it really is still the same system, but I can chat on forever, and, well, you buy it as a separate box, so maybe it deserves one. All right, up this guy.